Hi, everybody. This is Candy. Okay, today I'm going to take over the introduction. I'm going to do a little thought experiment. So I want to ask you to imagine that you're at this dinner party, and everyone that you're at this dinner party with has been you in a past life. Or has been with you. So the person next to you at this dinner party that maybe looks like a stranger to you was actually your sibling or your neighbor or your mother or your father, or could have been your cat in a past life. What if that idea alone could not change everything that's going on in our world, but it could at least shift it in the direction towards diversity, towards the type of world that I think a lot of us want to see. So basically I want to ask, what if reincarnation is real? So let's just get curious, let's have some fun, and just see where this conversation takes us. I don't know where Dan's going to go, I don't know where I'm going to go, but I also want to bring to you today's sponsor, and it's Past Life Travel Agency. Are you proud of that one, Dan? I don't like you being quiet at the beginning. Who needs a plane ticket when you've got Karma Miles? AI wrote this for me. Ready to explore who you might have been in ancient Egypt or Renaissance Italy? Close your eyes and let Past Life Travel Agency do the rest.
All right. Getting the sponsor out of the way early today.
Wait, we got to start the...
Drop the stones.
Hi, I'm Candy.
I'm Dan.
And you're listening to Drop the Stones,
a weekly podcast brought to you by Karma Travel Agency.
That's not right. Past Life Travel Agency.
Oh, Past Life Travel Agency. Hey, you booked this sponsor, not me.
Okay.
So you get all the copies.
Well, I know, but you should say it right now. You're going to get me in trouble. And
Past Life
I don't know how
Travel.
Sponsorship works, but do they dock you if you say the name wrong?
It depends on the sponsor.
For real, they might?
Yeah, some of them get a little pissy about it.
Oh, I guess you could have edited that out, and that's kind of rude, I guess.
Yeah.
If they're going to pay you, you probably should do whatever your contract says.
Yes.
It's not like we have to worry about that right now, but that's funny.
That's funny, she says.
Okay, so I introduced the topic. Now carry the conversation. We're flipping spots here today, buddy.
You want me to carry the conversation?
Yeah.
So you want this episode to be destined for failure?
No, but I'm like...
Because, I don't know what I was in a past life. Maybe I was Winston Churchill and a great orator.
You could have been.
And a great conversationalist. But in this life, I can sit in a corner at a party and not say 2 words for 3 hours and be all right. And then,
that sounds absolutely horrible. Would you not feel like... If I was at a party and I didn't talk to anybody for... I don't know. Maybe 10 minutes would be the max I would go. I don't even know if I could make it 10 minutes. I would leave.
Mm-hmm.
You would sit there for 3 hours and not talk to anybody?
When I'm at work and I'm in a truck with another individual, there could be 5-6 minutes of silence.
Okay, let me ask you something. In these moments of silence... Oh, my thing came off of the side of the computer. Sorry. In those moments... Where's your mind? What's happening?
If I'm feeling awkward, then I'm trying to race for something to talk about or something to bring up, which usually is how most of my conversations go in social interactions. And then it's a little phrase of, so, you're into agronomy.
Oh, okay. So
So tell me a little bit about that.
When you're talking to them, you're not going to talk about what's right in front of you. You're going to think of the things that they like the things that you have tied to them in your mind. Like, this person is into these kind of movies, so that's what you'll just talk about.
If I know that, yeah. That's why meeting new people is torturous. Because usually we'll both sit there and just be like, yeah.
I mean, I knew you
And
didn't like
I'm
you.
looking for an escape, some reason to leave, to get away, or hopefully someone beckons this other individual away so they're not near me anymore.
So you don't like.
So we're not both sitting there going.
You just like being around people you already know. That's when you're the life of the party.
Yeah.
You have to know the people, but if they're people you're uncomfortable around, unfamiliar with, you act very different. And like you still kind of act. You're not totally reserved with my family, but you are. Not all of them. There's certain ones that you kind of will be playful with, but some of them you are kind of like around my dad. Aren't you kind of a little more reserved?
Yeah, your
Subdued,
family,
I should say, not reserved necessarily.
Your family doesn't get me.
No, they don't. Most of them. Some of them do. There are some that do.
Yeah. And the other part of your family is so loud and so thirsty for the limelight that they usually don't let someone like me.
You want to know why? And you want to know why they're so thirsty for the limelight? Why?
Because they never got any attention.
Yes, exactly. We were pretty much neglected as kids. So there's this, that's what's spiraling in their minds, yeah.
So, and I'm the type of person that if I could be saying something, just talking and pointing out my point, and if someone were to jump in, I'd stop, even if I was midway through my point, and just let them go.
Yeah, that is you. Because you avoid conflict at all possible costs. You don't like conflict at all.
Well, I know because when I'm talking and then all of a sudden they jump in, they're not listening anymore, so why waste my energy continuing to talk?
I don't know that that's necessarily true. They may be adding to your point. They may be going, hey, or they might have a connection moment, and you're
that's
assuming.
Not what I'm talking about, because that's a conversation. So if, like we're doing right now, if you're adding to the point, I'll stop for a second, let you say yours, and then I'll continue on with what I have to say. I'm talking about sometimes, and it's not just your family, it's a lot of people. I'll be saying something, then they'll be like, oh, that reminds me, and then they go off on their own floppy dick. And
yeah, there's a lot of floppy dicks.
That point will not be brought by me again because apparently it wasn't interesting enough and they didn't care.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm going to stop you right there. It's not that it wasn't interesting enough, okay? They weren't listening. So if they were listening to you, they probably would find the interest in it. But because they weren't really listening to you in the first place.
Because it wasn't interesting.
No, it's not because it wasn't interesting. First of all, you do have people, the attention of people is quickly declining. They don't have, like, our attention span is suffering because of social media. TikTok is probably one of the biggest proponents of our attention span. We cannot handle, like, some people, there's a lot of people I know and they're like, no way would I listen to a podcast. The attention span that you need for a podcast is crazy. I want one post. And in one post, you can't really get your message across in 10 minutes sometimes. You know what I'm saying? It's complex. There's so many complexities to what we're going through right now. To hear these little sound clips is a problem.
So that brings up an interesting point. Because a couple of weeks ago on a Pebble, we talked about switching up the format. And I was thinking about this a little bit and thinking we can make this more of an ADHD format. So instead of, before we get into your topic today, we do little segments of different bits.
Kind of like we're doing today even.
Yeah.
But just different styles too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just different things of, all right, let's talk about this for 10 minutes.
Ooh, I like it.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
This fucking guy. So, yeah. So anyways, that's my communication sort. So you want me to carry a podcast, that's not going to be good. You look back at last week's with Brad. I just let you and Brad do your thing for a lot of it.
You did. I was like, why is he not saying anything? But, because well.
You guys were carrying it. And that's
I was like, if he's not going to add, I'll say something.
You guys were putting out some very good information, and my idiocy didn't need to be put into it.
No, stop saying that. See, I don't like when you're saying that. It's not idiocy. Me and Brad we were both raised evangelicals.
Yeah.
So we're going to connect in a way that you don't get.
Yeah.
Because we both grew up in that lifestyle. We know how they think because we we still have some programming that we're undoing from that thinking, right?
Yes.
Some stuff you do not have.
Yeah.
So, and last week we were talking about with him, what was our subject? Narcissist. And growing up with a narcissist is a lot different than coming into contact with a narcissist as an adult for the first time.
Yes.
Because when we came into contact with that personality type, you were like, what the fuck is this personality? This is crazy. Like, you were really, like, digging into it. You were teaching me things like that Darvo. I didn't know that. You were teaching me, like, I learned what a narcissist is mostly by listening to you, which then made me look it up some things myself, but it was because you were digging into it, because you were dealing with this personality up close, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, man, yeah, that kind of personality. But then I started to see patterns that I had grown up with, and I'm like, wait a second, like, this is, so my reaction was I didn't realize how bad it was because I've been conditioned to think that type of way of being to somebody is normal.
Yeah.
So I didn't recognize it as for what it was as soon as you did.
Yeah.
Are you following me?
Yes.
So anyways, I don't even know why I got on that tangent, but there we are.
Because I said my idiocy didn't need to be thrown in.
Yeah, you don't.
No.
You say stuff when you say something, I feel like it's important to listen.
Are you calling me E.F. Hutton?
Why does that sound familiar?
When E.F. Hutton speaks, everybody listens.
Who's E.F. Hutton? Was that cigarettes?
It was like an 80s investment commercial.
Who was he? I don't even know who he was.
You didn't watch enough TV in the 80s.
E.F. Hutton.
When E.F. Hutton speaks, everybody listens.
Was he some old white guy?
No, it was a company. It was an investment brokerage.
But isn't like Charles Schwab a real person too?
Yeah.
So isn't E.F. Hutton a real person?
Yeah, I don't know who he was. Probably
Gotta look him up.
Crusty old white guy.
All right, so carry on. I'm sorry I interrupted you so many times.
So we're going back to this me carrying on. That's not a good plan for success.
E.F. Hutton, white guy.
Yeah.
E.F. Hutton was a historically prominent American brokerage firm founded by 1904 by Edward Francis Hutton, E.F. Hutton, and his brother, Franklin Laws Hutton. Why did F.L. Hutton, why wasn't the saying when F.L. Hutton speaks? It doesn't flow as easily. But why wasn't it his brother?
It was named after E.F. Hutton.
And his brother. It was founded by him and his brother.
Well, maybe E.F. was the big one that everyone listened to.
Maybe he is the narcissistic brother.
Could be.
Or maybe they both agreed. Maybe F.L. didn't want his name like that famous or something. I don't know. Whatever. None of our business. So anyway, today, did you hear what the subject is?
I did.
Can you repeat it for the class?
The subject was you're at a dinner party with all your past selves and all your past family.
No, that's the story I told. What's the main point? What's the theme of today?
What would the conversation look like
if
you were there with all your past selves?
If reincarnation was real.
Well, yeah.
So basically what I'm saying is if we could get rid of somehow, hypothetically, the idea of heaven and hell and the afterlife, I think that belief system is having a greater impact on our society than we realize. That's what I'm proposing. Let's talk about it.
So your premise is that the idea of doing works to strive to an eternal glory instead of an eternal punishment is dictating how we live on a day-to-day basis.
Okay.
So we're living in fear of eternal torture instead of experiencing life and learning as we go.
Yes. And I do kind of think that not just thinking nothing after, though that could be a conversation, thinking, like an atheist that thinks there's just nothing that exists after, or you don't exist, right, anymore. Which has this kind of finite thing to it. It's still whereas I think, I'm only going to talk from evangelical Christianity because that's just what I know. In evangelical Christianity, there's a finiteness to man in the sense that, or in consciousness, in the sense that at one point we didn't exist, but we'll exist forever after. Right? In one capacity or another, we're going to exist forever. Either in hell, we'll have eternal death, or we have eternal life in heaven. That's how they preach it, though, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, let's look at the history.
But wait. Let me make this point. Okay. And an atheist, which I haven't really studied that or anything. But their view is there's an end. So maybe it's been here forever. Maybe the universe has been here, this kind of energy, whatever it is, has been here forever, but there's an end to me basically understanding that, or my personality, right? That, okay. And then there's lots of probably other ideas, but then this middle one between the two is reincarnation. So I'm proposing, or I have a theory a hypothesis, that if we were to believe in reincarnation, not in like so much the karma is in this lifetime, not so much like you're constantly trying to like fix your karma, but I don't know, that could be a thing too, who knows, but more that you could come back in a way. It could be karmic, I guess. Karmic might help in this idea I want to try to like flesh out a little bit to see if there's anything to it. Just because if I'm sitting next to someone who's different from me, someone who's, let's say I'm a conservative Christian, I'm sitting next to an LGBTQ person of the LGBTQ community, and knowing that was me in the past, or that could be me in the future, knowing that, do I treat them differently? If I know that they are me in a different dimension in a way, or, you know what I'm saying? And same with, a black or a brown person and a YT person, like how they would treat them. And I don't know, like I feel like it would make a huge difference, but I really don't think it would fix like everything, obviously, but I think it could be part of the solution.
Yeah. I think, to be a little bit adversarial here, it's still operating with a tinge of fear. It's softened a lot.
You mean reincarnation adds fear?
Because it's still operating on the what if this is going to affect me later? What if my next life I'm LGBTQ?
Okay.
What if in my next
I hear
life
that. So it kind of still seems very community. Selfish, self-absorbed.
No, it's not. A little bit, but I'm saying
self-centered. It is self-centered.
Comparing and contrasting heaven and hell, that's 100% based on fear.
Yes, that's based on if you have a hell present at all in your belief system, that's fear. Yeah.
So if you're believing in that, you're operating out of fear. I have to be this way. I have to act this way, because if I don't, as I was believed as a child, my dad told me the devil is going to grab my wiener and swing from it as I stand on the rooftop, he's going to swing around on it, yanking it out, because that's hell.
What the hell?
We discussed that in an old episode. So when I asked my dad what hell was, it's like, devil grabs onto your wiener and swings.
I think I vaguely remember that, yeah.
Yeah. So
your dad, that sounds like an answer your dad would give, actually.
You don't want to go to hell because you don't want that torture, so you can operate out of fear. And that's the driving force behind that idea of this fear, because how many times
it's motivated by fear, yeah.
If you're going to go down this path, you're going to go to hell. It's never, they do, I say not never, but they do often say, but if you choose the right way, you're going to be in heaven forever. But it operates off the fear of hell.
It does. Because if you take hell out of it and there's no punishment of hell, people wouldn't live so strictly. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, hell is vital to the Christian religion.
Yeah. So when you deal with reincarnation, there's still that element in there. Now, it's not as harsh.
All right. Yes.
Because you think of the most traditional reincarnation beliefs is what, Hinduism?
Yeah, Hindu's probably the oldest.
And I remember, and again, this is from the background I came from, a Christian background. So it was Christians telling me what Hindus believed, and it was, you want to come back as a cow because they're sacred, So you want to live your life very well, so you come back as this sacred beast that they...
That people look at and be like, I don't want to be a cow when I come back.
Well, they wanted to, because it was, again, this is what we were taught in grade school.
This is crazy.
But it was, if you're bad, you're going to come back as a cockroach or a mouse or something that people don't like. So be good, so in your next life you get that reward of being good. It was based off on how you live this life.
Yes,
so there was still
that's
a fear element to it.
Yeah.
Now, what you're saying is still not even that harsh. It's more of a, what if my next life I come back as one of these oppressed people?
People that I am actively voting in ways that will oppress them, and then I come back into same country and yet different body, and I am the body of those I oppressed.
So there still is a little element of fear in there, because then it's, well, did I just vote against my future self?
Or it could be seen as fear. It could also be seen as self-absorbed. You're only doing what's in your best interest. But there is probably a theory that says we only actually do what is in our best interest. And like, am I going to...
Well, it's our natural instinct.
Well, not necessarily, because I would
step
in front of my child to allow myself to be hurt over them.
Yes, but that preserves your lineage.
And it also makes, like, if you don't, you're going to live a life of what? You let your kid... Yeah. That's true. So there might be something, too, that we only do what is actually to our own
It's natural. We're
benefit.
only going to do...
Okay,
it's a survival instinct.
So then what you're saying isn't so bad to me from the angle I'm coming from. But the angle you're coming from is it's motivated by a fear of becoming the other person.
Yeah.
And if you just knew that you were going to be, and you being afraid of it's not going to help you. It's, hey, help yourself out by making life better here now for them, because you are them tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or there's another type of reincarnation, which I started to say, and that is the reincarnation where it's not karmic. The karma is in this lifetime, but there's no karma after. Like, you don't pay for it. You don't have to come back as something else. It's just, you get to decide what you want to do. Like, do you want to go back and try to learn something that you wanted to learn, or experience something you wanted to experience? Like, maybe you squandered your whole life because you lived as a Christian your entire life, and you realized, I never got to take the talents I was given and bring them to the world in the fullest, most fulfilling form. You know, like some of these people who become singers, they can only sing Christian songs. They have to stay within this formulaic type of, you know what I'm saying? Instead of, like, maybe they could bring a really new, unique sound. And some of them do when they branch off, because I'm going to go out on a limb and say some of these really good bands probably started in churches and little, you know, like groups like that, because and then they were just like, oh, we're not, our freedom is being stifled. We have to either choose to branch off from it or stay in it, and just so we can sing and be famous that way, because that's a sure ticket to money. Marketing to Christians is going to make you money.
Yeah.
You know, because they're gullible. They're, you can just put a Christian emblem. It's not hard to beat fake being a Christian. It really isn't. I could, in front of a Christian, I could fake being a Christian in front of a Christian very easily.
Yeah.
It's not hard to do, because they're not.
You know the bubble, you know the environment, you can operate within that environment, and you can cater to it. So
I know what they want. I know what they look for.
Well, shit, all you have to do is put a fish or a cross on your emblem.
Yeah, exactly. You put that on, you put a scripture verse on your thing, you say, God bless at the end of something, you're going to hook some of them, for sure. I'm not saying all Christians, but a lot of the ones I know, it's not hard to sway them. That's why you can sway them with one single type of voting.
Yeah.
Because they're simple-minded. That's the thing. They're simple-minded.
Yes.
And that when you educate them, and it's not that Christians are dumber than anybody who's not a Christian. It's the upbringing in these Christian schools. It's the preaching of that message at home. The indoctrination is what's doing it. The indoctrination, and they are convinced that anybody outside of their religion is indoctrinating. They do not see what they're doing as indoctrinating. When I was in evangelicalism and people would use the word indoctrination, it never referred to me. I never thought I was indoctrinated. Not once would I have thought that. I thought everybody else was indoctrinated.
And that's the irony that gets presented to them on the outside that never gets recognized by them. Because, and the thing you're talking about,
and it can't be.
it's a lack of critical thinking and thinking in general. Because you're not allowed to critically think. You're not allowed to think. You're allowed to
believe
the message.
and only certain beliefs.
Yeah, what's being taught.
And do not question it, because if you question it, you doubt it. And if you doubt it, you're in fear. You're in danger of hell, basically.
Yeah, you're on the P. Diddy slippery slope if you start to doubt.
Has it been called that, Dan? I know it's called the slippery slope, but
we referred to it last week with Brad. The P. Diddy slope. Slippery.
Well, yeah. Yeah. I forgot you guys were being real pervy at the end of that post. It was nasty.
It was not. You enjoyed it.
No, I didn't. You guys were being gross.
You're sitting over here with your
I was uncomfortable. I was probably blushing.
She's over here with her little angelic wings on and halo. But deep down, she's got the horns coming out.
No. Probably.
Yeah. We know
it's probably deep down in there,
You're devil in angel's clothing. So,
some would agree. Some would say that's true.
So, yeah, your other rendition is a little better because it's not fear-based.
Yeah.
It's more decision-based.
I think that it would be the best of all worlds would be if that's true.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful idea. That we're in here kind of like...
Yeah, and honestly, you're doing what the ancients did. Because the ancients had that question. What happens
after life? Or what we call life.
They all had different definitions of what went on and whatever. The Greeks and Romans had Hades and all that. And the Egyptians had theirs. I can't remember what it was called. But they started trying to define.
Egyptians just had the underworld, I think.
Yeah, I think they had a name for it. I can't remember what it was.
Mm-hmm. But it wasn't like torture until Dante's Inferno, was it? Was it torture before that? Or was it just kind of like aimless or heaviness, dark?
It was kind of a limbo, I think. Nothing really going on.
Just boredom?
Or some of it was, you had some that there was some punishments because they disobeyed the gods. You had what's his name with the rock. You had to keep pushing up the hill and stuff like that.
Oh, so yeah.
There was some punishments in it, but it's a fear that we all have in life of this is going to end someday.
Mm-hmm.
A lot sooner for others than some, but there's going to be a definite time we can mark down on a tombstone. And this is when it happened. So what happens after that? In us, again, I think just instinctually and inherently, we're just this self-absorbed people. So, you think about what people are doing today, and they're trying to establish some sort of legacy so that they're always remembered. Odds are 99.9% of people will only be remembered for 2 generations.
Yeah. Like
your kids and your grandkids.
Yeah. Like our grandkids probably will remember Nana and Papa, but like Sophie's kids might remember them a little bit. It depends on how long they live. But they're not going to remember them much than Sophie remembers my grandma.
Yeah.
She doesn't remember her. She remembers there was one time that she said she looked like a monster because of her wrinkles.
Yeah.
Sophie feels so bad about that, but she was a little kid. She didn't know.
So that's the truth for most people, and most people don't like that. They want a legacy that lasts forever. That's why you have people that are trying to establish their name brands and everything else so that
maybe that's even
this sticks around forever.
So it could be that the persons that are in the administration right now are going for infamy rather than fame.
Even though it's going to tarnish it, and it's going to be looked
upon. But it will never be forgotten. That name will go. That might be what his aim is.
Yeah, but I think after a while,
I don't know. His name's going to be around for a while.
It'll be more of a joke.
Eventually, it'll be like how people talk
Depending
about.
on how everything else goes, maybe it'll be more like what 1940s Germany was remembered for too. So Anyways,
Yeah, but I'm saying he might not be opposed to that
no, but
because that person's name is.
Yeah, but the thing is you can't even say it in a lot of social media because you'll get blocked.
If you say what? Oh, his name. The other
Adolphus.
guy's, yeah, his name. That's true because now we're trying to get rid of that name. That name has brought up so much because there's so much attached to it.
Names their kids Adolf anymore.
No, that's true. And anybody who has that last name, oh my gosh, I feel bad for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's right. Did they all stop pretty much naming their kids that?
Yeah.
But then 100, 200 years now, he will be forgotten. It might take longer, but the name is also, it's so terrible. It's like when you think of the past, you think of, I don't know, I'm trying to think of somebody that we're just like Nero.
Yeah.
Is there anything positive that people remember about Nero?
Oh.
The majority of people only know that he was an emperor and he was pretty gross.
Yeah.
I think. Right?
Yeah, he was an evil one.
Yeah, they don't think he didn't raise the vibration in people. Think on him. So, I mean, that's what that name will go down in history as. I guess if you want to ruin a name, he's going about that way.
Well, they're going to hurt his kids and grandkids, but that's beside the point. I
don't think he cares. I don't think he's real attached to any of them.
So back to the point at hand is that we have this just part of ourselves that wants this legacy to continue on. So we created something afterwards that we can continue on in, whether it be an afterlife of whatever sort, desire, whatever.
We may have created it, or it may be true.
Yeah.
It's possible that it's true.
Yeah.
But it's also possible that we created it in our minds to give ourselves comfort.
Yeah. It's something to comfort us at the end of the day.
And that's not something you divide over with somebody if they don't agree with you. It's something for humans to discuss. None of us know that we do not know what is true and what's not in this area. So it's it's the one big unknown that we can never know, really. We can't ever know the answer.
The simple fact is that's scary for a lot of people.
Because it's unknown. It's something we don't know.
So this gives us a little hope.
It comforts us,
this has got to happen, but I got this to look forward to afterwards.
Yeah. It's not so bad.
I go into this eternal sleep, and then I'll wake up and I'll have so many crowns around me to give to God and lay at His feet. Because
that sounds like, okay, let's just talk about the idea of heaven. Doesn't it sound like hell?
Yeah.
It sounds, when I'm looking back on it, and I think I even remember as a Christian being like, okay, hopefully, then I was thinking maybe it is like the song "Big Big House with lots and lots of rooms." Then I started to think, oh, maybe heaven can be like this really fun place where we're like this big happy family getting along.
Football.
Yeah, where we're just doing life and having fun. But then that would mean growing and learning, and then with learning comes mistakes. So then all of a sudden the whole idea of heaven starts to unravel.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? You take away learning, and life would suck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the whole picture of heaven that they paint is not the greatest.
Not the greatest. It sounds absolutely awful.
You're just constantly worship and praise.
You're just singing.
It's fine, but after a while, it's going to get old.
After an hour, everybody'd be like, are we going to do anything else? Yeah. And then realizing you're doing it for an eternity?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
And all created by a God that this is the eternal glory. Worship me.
Worship me.
We need
forever and ever. I mean, oh, God, that's
Let me call up Brad real quick and bring him on for this section. I mean, but...
Yeah, really.
Your eternal glory, your eternal happiness is worshiping this God.
What's the word for euphoric, but your utopia?
Yeah.
Is singing nonstop praise and worship music in glowing white spaces with millions or billions of other people. So, yeah, it sounds beautiful when we're all singing together for a little while. That would put you into a trance, and you're just going to be hypnotized for eternity, basically. Yeah. But then you can use your imagination, go other places at least. at least here we can go places in our imagination. We can, physically go places. We can taste foods. We can. Oh, that was something we were talking about. Would we eat in heaven? And then everybody was like, in my family, because having bowel movements and bodily functions is disgusting. Those don't exist. They were like, yeah, but you don't have to go to the bathroom. So we just burn it all up. It's so efficient. So there's nothing, but not realizing that us going to the bathroom and stuff and waste in animals and stuff is actually helpful for the planet. It recycles everything back around. Like you need everything to move in a cycle. You don't need any stopping up anywhere.
Is Kim Jong-un then already in heaven?
Why?
Apparently none of the Kims have pooped in years.
You tell me.
Their body has been so perfectly.
Is that what they tell them?
That he hasn't had a poop.
Do you think someone could tell MAGA that and they might believe it about the orange guy? Oh, God.
That's what he's hoping for.
Even though he has a gold toilet.
Even though he wears Depends.
It's like.
And people smell it. And you watch videos of him and people behind him are like,
I think you've been told that. I don't know that that's true. I don't believe some of that stuff because I'm like, I think it's just shaming physical.
He was at a UFC event and two young women were by him. And there was one right behind him and she's sitting back there, she's like, and she goes.
She could have just been rubbing her nose.
And kind of looks at him.
She could have been doing that because she knew a camera was on her too.
Could have been.
Okay, I don't know. And that's fair enough, but I don't like it when people shame his body. Even though I've done it, I've just called him an orange guy, okay? And that's making fun of the color of his skin.
Sometimes people deserve it. They bring it on themselves.
They don't deserve it. I think, what does that do to somebody else, though? It's not about him. Like, yeah, maybe he deserves to hear it. That's fine, because he makes fun of people all the time. I'm not saying that wouldn't be just. But my main concern is for the people who hear it, who do wear Depends and worry about that. And then they're hearing how people behind their backs are like, that's hurtful.
Yeah, I think the whole thing depends.
And that's how you deal with hurtful things to others. You just crack a joke about it. Depends.
I think it just depends on the situation.
It does depend on the situation.
I don't know where the joke is in this. I think you're reading into things a little too much.
Oh, wow. Now I'm being gaslit.
Well, you make me be this way. I wouldn't have these responses unless you made me have these responses.
Okay, I think we need to get Brad back on to have a conversation.
Well, I'm sorry you make me yell at you. Anywho. So back to reincarnation. So, yeah, I think if you had something where you just came back and you came back and it was a choice, that's a little better.
And you could come back if you wanted to. I don't think that's a little better. I think it's a lot better.
Yeah.
But let's say, okay, so now we've come to that conclusion. That yes, that would be the type of reincarnation we're talking about just now. That's not karmic outside of this lifetime, right? The karma stays within this lifetime. There may be some residual effects, like what we were talking about, how you can ruin a name, or you can make a name last on. It can have some where there's still an essence of you when you leave here, right?
Yeah.
So that could be something that even someone who's a atheist might practice. I don't know, because I know that they have things that keep them going too. So let's say that's the idea. Do we see any good that can come from the idea of heaven and hell? Well, now, it's a possibility. These are all possibilities. They could be true. We have to be open that they're possibilities. I don't know that there's not a heaven and hell. It's just the evidence doesn't point that direction, okay? For sure it doesn't point that direction.
There is good that comes from it because it gives... Think about the Christians, in your life and how they respond to morals. If you didn't have the Bible, then you'd be out murdering everyone.
Yeah.
And doing all these...
Their morality comes from the law that's written down in the Bible that they claim is interpreted.
It keeps them in check and keeps them civilized. somewhat.
Or at least, okay, but I don't know that that's true. I think they think that's true. But if it is true, yes, then...
On the extreme. So if you have heaven and hell, it keeps them in check.
Mm-hmm.
There's something overruled. Now, the problem is with today's modern religion, Christianity, is that they've warped and politicized their Christianity and have used it as a weapon against so many other people and used it as an oppressive entity to subjugate,
to control people.
Yeah, to subjugate others, to set themselves apart as better than. So colonialism, manifest destiny, what was it, the Puritan, I can't remember, we did a whole episode on it. But basically operating in the thing that this is best for God. It's best for God to have all this money for me because I'm a Christian and I can do with it Christian
and I'll
things.
do with it what God wants.
Even though I might be taking this from other individuals.
But you're not making me see how the idea of heaven and hell could be beneficial. You're actually bringing it back around to it's not beneficial.
In a general sense, and in a purely, if you read the Bible like we do now, and you take them teachings as in...
There's a heaven and hell. You create the heaven and hell.
And
or we do as a collective.
Of, this is about a collective that we need to go out and truly help other people.
And create more heaven
then
on
heaven
earth.
And hell would be fine because then it's going to keep pushing that where you're going to help more people. I'm saying today's modern religion isn't that at all.
No.
It's about what's going to benefit this powerful God that we have, and it's going to justify awful actions because we're doing it in the name of this God and promoting his beliefs and faith. So in that case, heaven and hell is going to cause more damage to society because it's going to persecute LGBTQ. It's going to persecute Native peoples. It's going to persecute non-believers because they don't operate in the same system we do, and they need to be punished for not.
So you're basically saying that the evangelical idea of heaven and hell that I was taught, that you were taught, it's not in any way, shape, or form good.
It propagates more misery on the society.
It creates more hell on earth instead of heaven. Yeah. And we're supposed to bring heaven to earth, right?
Yeah, because they're trying to force their message and their interpretation on the world.
And their idea of heaven is following all the rules.
Yeah.
And heaven is supposed to be a place where you don't need rules.
Yeah.
Right? Because people love each other and they're going to be good to each other. Yeah. And that's the ideal heaven, I would think, for everybody, is rules aren't necessary. There's no punishment anymore because we all know how to treat each other.
Yeah. So if you were in a Christian faith that was truly about equality and helping everyone else out and bringing
heaven to earth.
Basically all ships rise in a rising tide.
Yeah.
Then if that was what got you to heaven, that would be helpful and positive. Yeah. Because then it would be like, well, as long as I'm making it where everyone's on the same plane as I am.
Yes. If they were truly, if the key to heaven was loving your neighbor and loving your enemy and loving yourself, if that was the key to heaven and hell was what you got if you didn't do those things, right, it would motivate people to do good, right?
And I think the key difference is that evangelicals would agree with that statement, but then they would diverge off and say, but love is showing them God and Christianity and Jesus.
See, they think...
So when I treat a gay person negatively and say that they're living in a life of sin, I'm being loving because I'm preventing them from hell. Instead of coming alongside and meeting that individual in the place that they are and accepting them for who they are and saying, hey, let's figure this out together. Let's move together to the finish line and get along with each other and see how we get there. It doesn't really matter who you love. Mm-hmm. But modern Christianity is going to say, well, it does matter who you love because our book says this is an abomination.
But that's an oxymoron. I mean, that's hypocrisy. You can't say
with these evangelicals, you can leave off the word oxy.
That's a moron. Yeah. What's the it's a contradiction because if you can love can't. The point of love is just unconditional. It means it's not based on any conditions. There are no conditions for how I will accept you.
Yeah.
I will accept you. Okay? I will accept you as who you are. It doesn't mean I have to be up close to you. It doesn't mean I have to, like everything that you like or agree with everything you say, but I will accept you as you are. My goal is not to make you like me. My goal is to accept you as you are and then make my own decision about whether I want to be up close to you or not. But I'm not going to want evil for you.
Yeah.
I'm not going to want you to be punished in some way. I want you to learn and grow and have the best life possible, whoever that is, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And that is like love for. I was listening on a live where somebody was talking about, he asked a very good question. He said, shouldn't we vote for what's in our best interests? And some guy said, well, Republicans, that's how they vote. And I don't think that phrase is entirely true. And then Democrats vote for the collective. But I do think we should all vote for the collective. I think we should all think of what's good for me and also others. And I don't think you need to say what's good for others and that it hurts you. I don't think you need to vote that direction. But I guess a lot of times in voting with the evangelicals, they do think it votes against themselves, right? Like they want to vote for, they use abortion, let's just say. They're going to vote against abortion because if they vote for abortion, I guess in their head they're thinking they would have to, they don't have to get abortions.
No, and that's the whole crux of the matter of the whole abortion law is
you don't have to get one.
The pro-choice people are saying you don't have to get one.
Yeah.
You can still live you're dictating how I live my life.
Mm-hmm.
And the pro-birth people are, well, no, you're murdering individuals.
Yeah. So you're dictating to me, you're trying to tell me that it's okay to kill people. That's what they hear. Yeah. So a conservative hears you're saying it's okay to kill babies, and then the liberal.
I can understand their argument from the pure essence of the argument, but there's so much behind it.
There's so much nuance to that
because yes, I can see being an advocate for
children. Yes, I feel absolutely. We should all be. Yeah.
But that's what they're hiding behind. But there's a motive behind it.
Yeah.
Their motive is they want more individuals because children are the easiest to manipulate and indoctrinate.
They need a workforce.
So if we can get these kids to start believing, so now we can get in here.
Mm-hmm.
But they fail miserably. If the Christian church were to come out and as a whole, it's all of its practitioners would say, all right, you're a single woman who found herself in a predicament. And we say you have to have the baby. We're going to come along and help you raise it. We're going to financially
that's a whole different thing. We will financially help you out.
They could clean up.
That's true.
In the future, because now you're raising future Christians.
Yeah.
Because then people, they're in a susceptible state. The mother is. The child will be.
And as you rescue her from the dilemma that she's in, she will, always sing your praises as long as you treat her well. Yeah,
and that's the problem that they're having is because you remember seeing things at the pro-birther rallies when they're sitting out there saying this, and Jordan Klepper went up with an application to adoption. And they're like, oh, no, that's not for us. We don't, that's not going to fit in our life.
Mm-hmm. It's not for me to do the adopting. Well, there's a lot of kids that need adopted. Yeah. There's a lot of kids in the foster care system.
There's a lot of people who could use a lot of a helping hand from these individuals.
There's people who need parenting classes. They don't have a clue how to parent. They don't have the financial means to raise and feed another mouth. Yeah. They need help. And people will be like, well, then she shouldn't spread her legs, or, what I'm saying? It's usually blamed on the woman, and it's like, first of all, there's other reasons that a woman gets in that situation and that are not her control whatsoever.
Yeah.
And then the times that it is within her control, sometimes, she's uneducated. She doesn't know how to prevent it. Yeah. Sometimes it's because these are the same people that don't want sex ed taught in schools. Yep. So don't teach them how to prevent it. But then if they get themselves in a situation where they're pregnant, then make them carry it, even though they're
Yeah.
physically maybe even not able to carry it,
Yeah.
and they're mentally not able to raise another human being because they're not even raised yet. And then you don't help them once they have the child and they have the child out there, and then shame them if they do decide to give it to somebody else to raise.
Yeah.
You know, it's a in no way can you win as a woman unless the only way that you're going to be looked at in that situation positively by society, this types of society, Christian, evangelical, fundamentalist kind of society. So if you wait till you're married and then you do it within marriage.
Yep.
So they've created one way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And it has to be a heterosexual marriage.
Yep.
Can't be anything other than that. So they're creating this very this path that is they don't even hold up to, honestly, most of them.
Yeah, it's so much bullshit behind it. Because, again, if you were looking at the pure argument of, I believe this is human life, and I'm going to advocate for that life, and I will do whatever I can to help that life achieve it. Well, they stop. They don't put that last part on there. I'm just going to protect this life.
Yeah.
Where sometimes the best answer for this is to terminate.
Yeah.
Because that child's going to be in a horrible situation.
Yeah, because here's the thing,
choice.
And I've noticed that in evangelical Christianity, it's like being alive is all that really matters to them is this physical life. They worship almost this physical life because if their belief system is true, wouldn't those babies that are aborted, wouldn't they go straight to heaven because they have not had a chance to sin or anything? So it would be pushing more people into heaven according to their own, even though some of them I think do actually think those babies would go to hell, which why in the world would you worship a God that does something like that? That's sick.
Sin. It was a sinful act.
Oh my God, that's
so
sick. That's so gross. I mean, and they'll still worship that God.
Yeah. But they don't want to.
But in another thing I've thought of is their God's all powerful. Mm-hmm. If their God wants to stop it, let him stop it. He could stop every single one every abortion that's starting to happen. He could intervene and cause it to not work.
Yeah.
Every single time, but he doesn't because he's powerless, or he needs you to pass a law. So the people, our legislators, are more powerful than God. They can get it done, but he can't. Like, come on, it doesn't even make sense. It's like. Your God is not all powerful, or he doesn't care. This isn't important to him, or he doesn't exist. You know what I'm saying? Like, those are the options you should be thinking through as a Christian, not we need to legislate it so that it can happen. And I don't know. I just don't understand. Sometimes I don't know. I guess when I really started to think about these things is when I started to get out. But
yeah, because there's so much that doesn't match up.
No, it just...
So you can have this belief, but then naturally you should have some other beliefs that go with it.
There's other beliefs beliefs aren't just, but it's not in a vacuum. Like there's other things attached to that.
But they don't go that route.
They don't.
Because they really don't care about life.
That's critical thinking.
That's why I say pro-birth. All they care about is giving birth. They don't care about life.
No.
They don't care about quality of life. And there's a good chunk of them that would vote for the death penalty. And death penalty in their thing.
It's the same people who want the death penalty usually.
They don't care about life and quality of life and all that.
They don't care about quality of life. They just care about life. No, they want them to live. That's all. They don't care how they live. They're just be like, you're lucky you're alive. Because being alive is the only thing. That's why I heard on a TikTok live this week, you know that woman, what's her name? She's basically clinically, she's being kept alive by life support because she was pregnant. Adriana something?
I haven't heard anything on it.
Oh, she was pregnant. I think it was more than, I don't know if this is exactly right, but I think she already had another child. Mm-hmm. And she was wanting this baby and everything, but something happened, an accident or something, and she's on life support, or, she's basically being kept alive as an incubator because her baby was 8 weeks. She was pregnant, 8 or 9 weeks pregnant. So they're using her as an incubator to let the fetus grow enough so that it can live outside of her.
Yeah.
I don't know if she's still being kept alive. And then I heard conflicting ideas that the parents didn't, or the family didn't want her kept alive, but the government was making this happen. And then some were saying, no, the family did want her kept alive. But, or the medical wouldn't put her because it would be like an abortion and they didn't want to be like, I don't know. I don't know what is true in that story, but if it is true that they're just keeping a human woman, their body functioning, because she's probably, I hope that either she has a spirit and she's out of that body, or she's just checked out and not around. Because that would be an awful way to be trapped in a body like that.
Yeah.
And then,
but again, it doesn't talk about quality of life.
No, because they don't care about quality of life.
They don't care about the quality of life.
Because their quality of life a lot of times sucks, too.
They just care about birth.
Yeah.
And that's all it is. It's not pro-life. It's pro-birth.
They don't care about quality of anything. Think about marriage. It's not about the quality of the marriage. It's just like, get married.
Yeah.
I don't care if your marriage is good or bad. Have children. I don't care if you did a good job or a bad job. If you had children, you succeeded.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't care if you, like your job at all. Go get up and go the fuck to work at the same job and don't ever complain about it.
Yeah.
Which, we don't want you going to work and complaining about it and hating your job, but sometimes you have to go to something you don't like for a little while.
Yeah.
But you should be trying to get your way out if you can. But that's not the way. All of Christianity, their whole life is miserable because they're living for the next life.
Yeah.
And then they're going to just squander what they had.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the whole problem with it. So that's why you don't want to worry about the afterlife.
Or you want to believe in something that's a little more beneficial than believing in a heaven and hell.
Yeah.
But believing in a heaven and a hell that are eternal destinations is hurting us. Period.
Yeah, you should focus on what you have now and don't squander the opportunity.
Yeah, just living in the present moment would be the best.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Yep. So we brought her back. Way to go. Pat yourself on the back. We got there. So check out our website, danacan.com. It's got everything on there related to everything we do. You can get your hand in the candy jar and find all the goodness that's in there. All the jelly beans and black licorice and all the stuff Candy enjoys most.
I feel like this is disturbing how you're describing it. I don't like it. Don't use that analogy anymore.
What, the candy jar?
Yeah, I don't like it.
But it is. It's candy jar.
I don't like how you're using it. It makes me feel uncomfortable. Please, as your wife, don't use that anymore.
I don't see it, but okay. I won't. You last time, or a couple weeks ago, you jumped on me because you're like, you don't have to say it every time. And I said, let's refer to it as the candy jar. You're like, fine.
Well, now I don't. Candy jar's fine, but when you're like digging around and getting all the jelly beans and the licorice, I didn't like it.
Not everything's a euphemism.
I know. Are you seriously saying that to me right now?
Yes.
You use euphemisms. I don't, all day long. And now the one time that you claim you weren't, and maybe you weren't, but you're just jealous that I picked up on it before you.
We're going to have to bring Brad back to analyze you. Trying to make me feel crazy. Tell you what.
Paybacks for earlier. So there.
Yeah. So yeah, go to the candy jar and get all the goodies out of that she has to offer. Remember to go up, give us 5 stars. And we appreciate that. Leave us messages. We love that too. Author Sarah Miller Mott left us a message, and I can't remember what it said. Oh, it was about the pebble we dropped a couple of weeks ago. She said, thank you for continuing on. A lot of people are dropping their podcast, and I'm glad to see you guys are continuing and changing. So thank you, author Sarah Miller Mott.
Yes, thank you.
We appreciate it greatly. And so, yeah, we get a kick out of the comments, and we got to respond to that one. So By the time you hear this, Sarah, the response has already been given to you.
Oh, because he's assuming I will get on there and do it, so I'll try to.
You're better
Sarah.
at responses than I am. And if you're watching on YouTube, remember, smash that like, hit that subscribe. We appreciate it greatly. And, as always,
We have to change it. We're changing. Grow with us.
otherwise karma will kick you in the ass.
Bye.
Bye.
Mellow.